The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery, and I'm back after, I think, a month. What is it?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, you can't tell because you were out at concerts every day and partying and you do all that stuff.
My record's been expunged.
Yeah, well, big deal. But you go out there and you can do all that stuff. He swings from the chandelier, and here I am working on a work trip, and I get COVID. What's wrong with this? You know, it's just you have a good laugh. I'll make sure you pay. I'll make sure. I'll send it to you in an envelope.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I'll be looking for it in the mailbox.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen your messy mailbox. I know. You'll send your wife to go get it. That's what.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
No, but I'll get it anyway then.
No, you keep her in the basement, don't you? I mean, no, you're in the basement.
That's where I am.
Oh, okay, yeah, she won't. She'll just drop it down, whatever. Anyway, speaking of sin and all that nasty stuff that you do, we've got an author coming back because he just wanted to drop in and say that he's got a new novel out, and so let's see what this is. So, Mr. David Kempf, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me back on, guys. My new novel is called The Wager of Sin, which is kind of a play on from Romans from the New Testament for the wages of sin is death, replacing wages with wager because it's the conclusion of a Faustian trilogy.
When you do something like this and you delve into this and you kind of play on the words like that and all that, what do you have in mind when you're putting a novel like this out, or do you have something in mind?
I always want to tell the story that I would like to see told. I mean, even like the greatest movies I've ever seen, it's very rare when you really see the way that things were meant to be, like Orson Welles with Citizen Kane. That was exactly what he wanted because there wasn't that kind of interference. And I think writers like us, we have editors, and that's very necessary. But we still get to tell, I think, a lot of times the story that we want to tell. Even, novels have editors and censors within the corporations that keep people from telling the story. Stories that can't necessarily be, categorized. Like everything now with the movies is a formula. It's a remake, a reboot. Everything looks like a video game. I'm trying to, I guess, tell an epic story, the epic story that I would like to read. And I started it 2009, and I finished it in 2022.
Wow, that takes a long time. What takes so long for you to complete something like this? Is it the thought necessary, or is it that you kind of redo the story several times? Like what is so long drawn about this?
I just want the story not to be perfect, but to be perfectly told to the best extent possible. And I want it to be logical, what would the next step be? Like when I was writing the second book, you think of the great sequels like The Godfather, The Dark Knight. It's a logical extension from what happened first, and I wanted to see the characters develop. And I'm dealing with a character that's not necessarily a good man, not necessarily an evil man either, but I like the ambiguities of life and the ideas of good and evil being more of a gray area than black and white, and that does not sell most of the time. But I think it makes for a very captivating story. And like I told you in the last interview, I wanted to start out with a monster that's not told a lot, so I went to the the genies, the evil genies. And after dark fiction, the story was finished. The character, Dr. Henry David Wells, who's in all three books and in minor parts in some of my other books, the stuff with the jinn was basically done at the end of dark fiction. It had a conclusion. He was immortal, then he became mortal, and then he doesn't like being mortal and feeling, the meat puppet rotting away of the body and things like that. So he went back to the dark spiritual realm, and he's trying to do a deal in the second book, damn fiction, with the devil, because the devil wants to write his life story so he can be number one on Amazon. Like I said, there's a little bit of humor there. And I just thought, with like all this debate with censorship and violence and sex and all this stuff that's in our culture, the theme of damned fiction became, do images of sex or images of violence corrupt the human soul faster? So one of his students, the character's name is Sarah Nolan, she was writing these sort of erotica things while he's writing these violent horror stories. So in damned fiction, they're getting into a contest to see who has the honor of writing Satan's life story. And the outcome isn't decided until the third book, which is The Wager of Sin, the one that was just published.
Did you have to do a lot of research with going into the jinn and the mythology and all that, or did you do more? Did you use more of your imagination to create that aspect of the novel?
That's a good question, David. Actually, it's a combination. I do like my own sort of like version of them where they're more like collective instead of individualistic. But I also did a lot of research with the Quran and the Arabian Nights. And very fortunately for me, my best friend from college is Syrian. So he could really, tell me all about this stuff. It just kind of all came together. And of course, the jinn are also associated with devils and things that are evil. And I thought, well, if I brought the devil in the story in a different way, like what if he's jealous of the jinn? What if he's got all this power, but like he doesn't have the power to grant wishes? He would be jealous of those other entities.
So I'll tell you, when you do something like this, okay, so when you're doing this story, and this is book 3, in the trilogy, was this all planned out from the get-go, or do you kind of know what you want to do and you just have to work out the details? And do you kind of go with the subject more than the character, or is the character the one leading this?
It's kind of a combination, but with Dr. Wells, that character is in all 3, this trilogy, and like I said, small parts in others. I sort of found him to be very charismatic and human and interesting, and it started to be like I was thinking, what would he do next? What would be the logical extension of his personality? It's kind of a combination, but I did have a certain place that I like, sort of like an epic place, of building up the story structure that I wanted to go. Now, like we were discussing before, the most important thing for me in this particular book was to make the ending right, because this is something I started so many years ago. It deserves a good ending. And I just started obsessing over the twist endings. What makes a great twist ending. Peter Straub, rest in peace, who just passed away, his novel Ghost Story is just, the novel I'm talking about had an incredible twist. It starts off where you're absolutely chilled to the bone because you think this crazy guy has kidnapped this little girl. You don't know that the little girl isn't actually a little girl. She's actually the shape-shifting Eva Gali, but, you have to read along to find that out. Now, when I read William Goldman's Magic, it's about Corky, who's a magician who's very, very shy, doesn't have any charm. And then he has this partner, Fats, who makes everybody laugh, who's obnoxious. And, you're about halfway through the book, and you realize that Fats is a ventriloquist dummy and Corky is insane. And, of course, I Am Legend is one of my favorite twists, Richard Matheson's book, because I think the best twist is when you realize that the monster has been you the whole time.
I live with it.
It goes back to what John Carpenter used to call left-wing horror and right-wing horror. Right-wing horror is the chiefs sitting around with everybody in the tribe. They're around the fire at night telling scary stories, and the chief says the evil is out there. The evil is the other. That's sort of like right-wing horror. Then he's like, left-wing horror is the chief sitting around telling the stories and saying, the evil is us. The evil is me. The evil is inside us.
Yeah, there you go. I'm left-wing. So what is it you want people to get out of this series? Like, are you trying to tell people something? Or are you trying to warn them? Do you have any sort of meaning to it? Or you just want to scare people?
I do, but I don't want to push my own meanings on them. I guess I want them to come up with their own meaning from the story. And that's not a cop-out. That's actually what I really want. I like people to be able to see the same thing and having two entirely different perspectives. Now, it's a little challenging because you're sort of manipulated to root for somebody who, isn't the most moral or ethical, I suppose. But I don't think you should always have to have a black and white virtuous hero for the story. And I do like the use of the unreliable narrator. And we're actually pretty used to this. I mean, when you see at least for me, when you see the Psycho movies, you've been manipulated into rooting for Norman. I mean, when I saw Psycho 3, I was like, oh man, I hope Norman kills that guy so we can go back to running the motel. I was really worried for Norman's safety. And, same thing with Hannibal. Like, oh man, I sure hope Hannibal gets out. I don't want to see him incarcerated. But you wouldn't think that of a real life serial killer. You wouldn't be like, hopefully anyway, you wouldn't be rooting. You would be rooting oh man, don't let him catch you there, Jeffrey.
Yeah. Well,
they can call you anything, but don't let them call you late for dinner.
Oh, that's bad.
That was bad.
Do you watch? Have you been watching that series, or do you watch that?
I've watched a little bit of it. I think I had too much empathy. I just feel so much for the victims. It's again, when it's real, it's beyond horrific. When it's Norman Bates, or Hannibal, you're rooting for the bad guy. But that stuff had me thinking, though. We root for some people, some characters that aren't necessarily all virtuous. I mean, James Bond kills people and makes puns about it, and everybody laughs. But if you actually saw somebody get killed like that, and somebody made a pun, you'd be filled with horror.
No, I'd be laughing. Well, yes. But what is it? Do you think? What is it about your? I don't want to say evil character, but character that does things wrong like that. Why do you think people root for them? Why is it people are kind of like, yeah, cool, man, or they're happy with what they do? What particular elements is it that people grab onto? Just
the basic human element of we would like to see that happen. When I read Interview with the Vampire, Louis wanted Daniel Malloy at the end to be like, see how horrific it is to be a vampire? But instead, the kid is like, how do I become a vampire? It was supposed to be a cautionary tale. I don't think it's power necessarily, but people feel sometimes that life is sort of a dull experience. Wouldn't it be exciting to live this way? Wouldn't it be exciting to have all this constant praise and to write the greatest books ever? I'm speaking about my Dr. Wells character. And knowing that you're never going to die, you just have to occasionally find victims to sacrifice to the djinn every now and then. It's actually a pretty good deal.
Unless you're the victim.
Yeah, I suppose. I think there's a lot of irony in this stuff. I mean, I can't remember the book, but it was C.S. Lewis, and this guy dies in this book, and I guess he wakes up in the afterlife, and he loves to drink, and he can drink as much as he can without ever getting drunk or hangover. He loves to gamble, and he gambles all the time, and he never loses a single hand when he's playing blackjack, and he gets to go home with any woman he wants every night. And after about a month of this angel comes and visits in his afterlife realm, and he says to the angel, this is very interesting, but I'd like to experience hell. And the angel says, what makes you think you're not in hell? You got too much of what you wanted. And that's kind of a theme of the books, too, is getting too much of what you want, which, of course, is a luxury most of us don't get to suffer. But
you find you also have to, let's say, how do you say it? The good characters or the normal characters or the people that end up getting caught up in. Well,
not always. They do sort of get caught up in the drama of the narcissistic sociopath, but there's some good characters too, and some of them influence the bad character to be a little better, and sometimes he influences the good characters to be a little better.
You were also, mentioning themes, and I was just wondering, throughout the course of this trilogy, have any motifs, reoccurring themes, has any of that stuff kind of bubbled to the surface? Have you noticed that there are certain themes that keep reoccurring within this trilogy?
Yeah, it's like the more you know, the less you know kind of a thing. it's climbing the mountain only to find it just leads to a higher mountain. It's like I said, the more you know, the less you know. It really does go back to just telling the story that I wanted to tell. I want it to be uncategorizable. It's epic, but it's still horror. It's a novel, but there's short stories contained within the novel because the stories are about writers. And with this particular one, I wanted to finish the trilogy, and I really wanted to emphasize the importance of the twist ending. The Twilight Zone would be good. Alfred Hitchcock Presents, that kind of thing. Except it's not exactly that. But I think it will. The ending of the book changes the perspective on the entire trilogy. So I did things it got vulgar and violent. I'm sure there's some things there that might potentially offend people, but everything is a distraction. It's like being a magician. It's like waving your right hand up here frantically while your assistant, puts the card under the table in your other hand. It's everything towards the end of the book is a distraction so that the ending is a genuine surprise and a real aha moment.
Did you think writers, in a lot of cases in this type of writing, they actually make the evil characters more likable on purpose than the characters that get hurt or killed? Is that sort of something that happens?
Oh, I think so. I mean, what does everybody remember about Milton's Paradise Lost? And John Milton was a Puritan and a half, but everybody thinks the hero is Satan. They found him to be the most interesting character. There's, a whole big thing about a trip to heaven and a whole big thing about a trip to purgatory. There's Paradiso and Purgatorio with Dante, but Dante is remembered for the Inferno. So I think that's the most interesting character would be that. I mean, I think it was inevitable with Thomas Harris. Not that Clarice Starling or Will Graham aren't interesting, they are, but it's probably more interesting to see what life is like in the day of Hannibal Lecter. Yeah,
it certainly brings up it, but there's a lot of license that goes into that because so much of that is exaggerated. Even with the new Dahmer series, it's pretty far-fetched.
Well, it has to be far-fetched to be imaginative. In Dahmer's case, for one thing, Dahmer is much more of a normal-looking guy than the guy who plays him in the movie.
Yeah.
If Dahmer if he wasn't famous and he walked by, you wouldn't give him a second look. Just looks like some guy who's on his way to work. That's it.
And the thing is, a lot of they make up so much. They have the neighbor that lives next door that always complained to the police, but that's not even real.
No.
That's not even they create this whole drama of these characters of these people, and they add it in there, and it makes it more intense. You know what I mean? And then they build up his character as if we really know what he's like doing all these things. And I just, when it gets to true stories, I can see why it bothers some people because it's not like it's a real true story. It's kind of like, yeah, he did it, but
yeah, like I said, you don't root for them. Come on, come on there, Gacy. Stop clowning around and get to your next victim. We're rooting for you, buddy. No, you're filled with a sense of horror. Watch Jack the Ripper. I'm like, oh man, I hope he doesn't get caught. He'll get kicked out of medical school.
Well, there you have it.
But like I said, with at least for me, Norman Bates, when I saw Psycho 2, I was expecting to root for Lila, the sister, Janet Leigh's sister in the first movie, Marion Crane's sister, who found Mrs. Bates being a corpse at the end. Yeah. And instead, the first movie had a twist ending. Psycho 2, which I actually like better than the first one, has a twist premise. Lila's the villain and Norman's the tragic hero. And that's really hard to pull off. But
it is.
They made her so consumed with vengeance, and he doesn't lose his mind until the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, that by default, she's the bad guy.
Yeah.
I think that's what set it up for Psycho 3, You're like, oh, he's been through so much. I hate to see him go back to the asylum just for killing a few people.
Oh.
And of course, they had Sheriff Hunt, who's been voted the dumbest sheriff in movie history. He was like, well, I know people are getting killed, but it can't be Norman because he's sane now.
Yeah.
The only thing I can remember that movie, the third one, is the bloody ice.
Holy crap! Well, that's a great example of Sheriff Hunt being inept.
Yeah.
when he was reaching in for the ice, he probably should have realized that there was a girl's dead hand next to it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Do you know the funniest thing too is like they made you hate that reporter lady. I mean, I was a kid when I saw the movie, and I was like, man, I can't wait for Norman to hack that woman to death. She is so annoying. And then, like, Sheriff Hunt is, like, yelling at her and saying, I've had it with your Nancy Drew horse.
How dare you?
Yeah, you would think that they would. That's sort of why we get into this. This is the problem with society, isn't it?
Well, I don't think we're going to solve society's problems in this interview.
Well, that's what we thought. We thought we were getting the knowledged one on here to tell us what was going on in society.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk about twist ending.
Twisted Sister.
David, you probably appreciate the twist endings in the horror stories, I would imagine, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked about Clive Barker before. The Yattering and Jack is a great example of a twist. Ray Bradbury's Usher 2 and The Sound of Thunder. And, of course, maybe the best twist in a short story ever is Shirley Jackson's The Lottery.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great twist.
Well, I think the twists are great as long as they're not too predictable.
Yeah, well, I mean, I when I saw the original Twilight Zone episodes when I was a kid, if you remember, like, The Mask and To Serve Men and Eye of the Beholder, like, all of those.
Yeah.
You didn't expect everybody to have the look of the mask on their faces at the end of that. I didn't. I thought maybe they'd take off their mask and be werewolves or something stupid. And then To Serve Man as a cookbook, that is a great ending. Holy crap. Yeah. And he only learns just in time to be put on the spaceship. She could have told him like 10 seconds later or whatever it was.
He's going to be served with gravy.
Exactly. Eye of the Beholder is fantastic. Because you're expecting this, this poor woman who's obviously hideously disfigured, and it's very sad. And they take off her bandages, and it's this beautiful woman. I mean, and then all the doctors and nurses are the big face people.
Yeah,
that's right.
True. I think it's good.
Yeah, but what occurred to me, not to, play devil's advocate and be old-fashioned here or whatever, but like at a certain point I started to realize that, and I felt this way at the beginning of CGI, not now. I used to think, movies today have great special effects and terrible stories. Rod Serling had great stories and terrible special effects.
That is true.
Yeah. But, that shows you an example of how the story can create the image in your mind enough of it that you go with it. Doesn't matter how bad it really is. And sometimes you don't realize that until you look back at it when you're older, and you look back at that same show and you kind of go, oh, it's like Dark Shadows. Dark Shadows was running with terrible limited effects on their series, but yet they made a huge impact because of how they wrote it.
Yeah, it was a very well-written show. And like you were saying, the images created in your mind's eye, that is what makes, the horror novel something like really special. I actually feel deeply sorry for people who can't appreciate it. And, I do know people like that.
Yeah.
I have a friend who watches sports and bets on, his whole life is just sports. And then, like, I said that I've probably read Salem's Lot like a dozen times since I was 10, and he's like, wow, what a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, but that's it, I had a brother.
Okay. Each their own.
Because I had an older brother that would be like, I understand why you would listen to a song more or an album several times, but why would you want to watch a movie or read a book more than once? Because you already know the ending. Because I think it's the eye of the beholder. It's how you perceive it. It's what you're getting out of it. If you're just looking for the story, the beginning, middle, and the end, and that's it. It's it. You're not looking for any of the details. Once is enough, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's never going to be the same. Oh man, I can't pronounce the guy's name, but It's the short story, The Human Chair, by the Japanese writer. His pen name is Eguawa Rampo. Harlan Ellison pushed this story, and my favorite horror story. He said this is one of the greatest horror stories ever. So it's called The Human Chair, and it sounds like it's some slasher horrible thing, but it's not. Nobody dies in it. Nobody's hurt in it.
Right.
It's got it's got the best twist ending of any short story I think I've ever read. You should read it. I was astonished when I read the last paragraph that it is fun to reread stuff, but at the same time, I have to say I will never have the experience of that aha moment reading the last paragraph again, like the first time.
Yeah. There's nothing like the first time.
It just stayed, and the fact that he could do that without violence or something really sick. But of course, all this stuff is very, very, very subjective. Just like movies are very subjective. My friends who like sports and stuff don't understand my obsession with what they call bad movies, and I just said there are no bad movies. They're simply unappreciated. I just want to say real quick, I've disappointed my son Andrew a little bit sometimes because he likes movies like me, and I've had like a few friends who've worked on movies and stuff, and when I've gotten some blurbs for my books, he was always disappointed with the movie connections. He's like, wow, he's like, you got a blurb from somebody who worked on Jaws? I'm like, no, I'm like, Jaws the Revenge. The one where the shark growls and Michael Caine can fight a shark in the ocean and his shirt doesn't get wet. That one. My son really deeply appreciates this. Do you guys ever see the movie The Swarm?
I know the name.
Probably.
We watch most things, but
first of all, I can't resist calling it a B movie. It's bad, I know. Also, I do a paraphrased impersonation of Michael Caine. I'm going to do it before I change my mind. My kid loves it. I'll do it right now. These bloody police are going to kill us all!
Wow.
I've seen The Swarm too many times.
Well, there you go. I can't say anything about that. That's just fantastic. Well,
thank you, Alan. They just made my day. Somebody likes my Michael Caine impersonation.
Yeah.
Also, he's like, Dad, did you get a blurb from Alien? I'm like, no, the Alien Factor, the one where the aliens land in Baltimore. The one that really broke his heart was this one, though. He's like, wow. He's like, the screenwriter of Rogue One, Star Wars. He loves Star Wars. I'm like, no. I'm like, not Rogue One. It's like Rogue, the giant killer Australian crocodile.
Yeah. Well, I hear Sven Gulli's looking to reach out now. He's going to do Syndicate it 5 days a week or something going on, I hear. So he's looking for characters. Maybe you should jump into that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know he's a horror host.
Yeah. Well, apparently he's doing well enough that they're going to do 5 days a week or something now.
Wow.
You carry.
Yeah. So.
Do my fourth-rate Michael Caine.
Yeah, he needs.
Michael Caine.
Well, that would fit. He needs those extra co-hosts to go on there and throw chickens at him and whatever else.
Michael Caine zombie.
Yeah, you know.
Hopefully Sven Gulli listens, or I can write him an email. Who knows?
Yeah, I'll send him a message. I'll tell him this show's for him.
Just no personal checks.
Yeah, no personal checks.
So I have to stay in character as Michael Caine.
Yeah, you'll have to be Michael Caine for that.
I'll
tell him that.
There was a kid who put all the movies together. I can't find the video anymore, but it was movies like Jaws of Revenge and The Swarm and all that other stuff. And the kid called it Michael Caine versus the Animal Kingdom.
I just saw an old Michael Caine movie, the Ekpris Files or Ekpris.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which one was it? I'm sorry.
Ekpris Files or Ekpris Files. It's from '65. He was.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it's actually quite good. They've got a new series made on that movie now. I haven't seen it, but I thought, well, maybe I should watch the original and before I get into it, Then I can complain.
Did you ever see Jaws of Revenge, you guys?
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater.
Oh, my God. Don't admit that. You can't admit that.
Oh, yeah.
No, just say, yeah, I saw it on cable. Once.
I saw it back in the day.
Oh, my God.
Well, I was all excited. Like I saw the poster when I was a kid, and it was just I love like, hey, Lorraine Gary's in it, Brody's wife's in it. I guess Roy Scheider's not in it. I'm like, I was like, Michael Caine's in it. How bad could it be?
He's in everything. I was 16 when that came out.
He can't say no to anything.
No, that's right.
I mean, like, he just gets, he was only in that movie for filming for 5 days, and he did it, just to get a house. He never even saw the movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's a job. It's a job, you got to do some things.
Then he just gets on the plane at the end. All right, I'll just do one more Michael Caine. This is all different. This is what I think of when he gets on the plane. Goodbye, Jaws.
Well, there we go. Now, there's no place else you get entertainment like this. We've got, one day you have Dean Koontz one day, and then you have this the next day.
Michael Caine. You have Michael Caine the next week.
Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic, I haven't had so much entertainment in one day in a long time. I'll tell you. Well, let's give out. How do people get a hold of you, Michael? Is there? Do you have a website, phone number?
I'm gonna have to switch over to. I'll just pretend to be Michael's agent now because I think that's about it for me and Michael Caine.
Oh, got to work on that.
You're not going to hear Master Bruce or anything, Actually, that's so funny because Christopher Nolan, one of the reasons he put him, I think, in the Batman movies was because he said people need to remember that you are a good actor. I mean, The Man Who Would Be King is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, he knows how to act. He's good. I don't see anything wrong with doing bad movies to make money. I mean, you have a profession.
No, I think it's admirable and incredibly entertaining in some ways.
Yeah, in a way, it kind of helps the movie sell, and not only that, you're also, you're making money, and you're using your career, your profession. I don't think it makes it worse for anything. I think take advantage of it because you're only hot for so long, and then, which you realize that now, that you're really hot, Michael Caine. So I would.
Well, he's held on pretty long now. I mean, my goodness, longer than most people have.
Yeah. No.
And he's pushing 90 and he's still in movies.
Yeah, still making it, and you can still think and know who you are. Go for it. So where do people find you? Let's give out your information.
Well,
1-800.
I think I left a link to Grayland Press, which is my cousin Heather's publishing company. She makes book covers, and I think if you guys, I assume you've seen the cover, that's a pretty amazing, intriguing cover I think she's made. And
do you have a phone number you want people to call you on? Or
976-EVIL.
976. Man, we're really three old guys here, aren't we?
Yeah, really.
Evil. Well, that's all right. I had a young lady friend ask me, she's like, what was it like, was it exciting to be there at the beginning of TV?
Oh.
I was like, it was at the beginning of Atari, not TV. We didn't, sit around the radio.
Yeah, well, I did. I'm still there. I can't get away.
You're still there?
Well, Mr. David Kempf, this has been an interesting time. So your new book, of course, we're all going to look for. It's out now, right?
It is, The Wager of Sin. It's available on Amazon with my other books. I think it's a very enjoyable, thought-provoking book. I got a blurb from our mutual friend, Jeffrey Oliver. He wrote me a nice little write-up there.
Oh. Is that the Jeff Oliver that was... No, just kidding. Forget it.
You might know him. He's really good friends with Michael Caine.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I said that.
Yeah, he was on the side.
I ended up watching Jaws the Revenge because of you guys today.
Yeah. Right. Well, we really appreciate you being here, David. So thank you, and we'll have the book and everything posted, of course, on our website. So good luck.
It was wonderful to be there and here. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com. houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Yeah. Good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.